Moving on, please allow me to invite Mary-Lyn Raath to present her thoughts on hype expectations of ROI from digital investments. Mary-Lyn is the Cluster Executive Digital at IOCO. Mary-Lyn, welcome to the CIO Summit today. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Francis, and thank you for the opportunity to chat to you today. What I would like to discuss in a little bit of detail today is our hype expectations of return on investment from our digital investments. We're all under pressure. Many CIOs and businesses are under huge pressure to deliver digital transformation, but at the same time make sure that there is plenty of value and benefit for the organization. And we don't often go back and measure that. So let's talk about how would that be able to be possible. When I walk into a CIO's office, certainly not in the last 18 months, but before that, there are always whiteboards or charts up in their offices with project portfolios and major strategic ideas such as research next generation technology, accelerate our investment in these key technologies. Are we catering for our digital consumers well enough? Are we pulling in the latest millennials and the Generation Zs? Are we moving to cloud first strategy, move to open source, get rid of the legacy, manage our business better, customer experience, etc. So all of these are major priorities on the CIO's canvas. But how do we sift through all of this and really focus on the things that are going to particularly relate to or result in a return on investment ultimately? With so many priorities, where do you invest and how do you create true value for your organization? So what I see is many competing priorities for a CIO. If we start at the bottom of this picture, managing the engine room, traditionally 95% of IT's business has been to keep the lights on, to keep the engine running, to make sure that there's enough connectivity, make sure there's enough compute infrastructure, that we've got the right outsource partners running and managing all parts of IT to make the business run, that there's a call center or a service desk to make sure that queries are dealt with sufficiently for staff and for clients. But that 95% of the effort, which often is 99% of the effort, certainly in the public sector, doesn't let you focus on the stuff that really will digitally transform your business. And the stuff that will digitally transform your business requires for you to work for business and IT to work together. And we know that's not always very easy. So if this is your reality, where should your focus be to ensure that there is some form of return on investment? So certainly in the bottom half of the managing your engine room, the first advice I have is to manage the two speeds at which you're working. You've got legacy, but you're also building new tech on top of that. And so you have a two-speed world managing this and working towards the future and the new. How you manage that and how you leverage your existing investment on the legacy for what it is needed for and create new, for example, new customer experience, I think that's really, really important. The second is you need to make sure that your engine room can scale so that you're not constantly finding yourself in a position where you can't, you don't have enough infrastructure. That's why you move to the cloud. That's why you use new tech. That's why you have a cloud first strategy, etc. But you need to be able to enable scale. So whatever that means for your business, you need to enable scale and spend money wisely on a pay as you use basis rather than invest huge amounts of money up front. The third thing you could do is optimize your environment. Optimize, and I'll put with that automate. Have you optimized? Have you done data virtualizations? Have you automated many of the IT functions that your IT team could be doing, or that you could save them from the manual tasks of checking infrastructure and checking servers and all that? A lot of that these days can be automated with technology. So leverage that as far as you can. And then the other really important thing is choose your strategic partners and your vendors very carefully so that you make sure that they're reliable and that they deliver what you really need them to do. So that's the part of managing your engine room and how you could go for what areas to focus on to maximize return on investment. investment. On digitally transforming your business, of course, there are many different things that you can focus on. I've chosen 3 only because we need to limit ourselves at some point. So the first is a customer experience focus. Have you really gone in and looked at the customer experience? Because that is the journey that the customer goes through in order to experience your goods and services. Have you made that your major focus of innovation and change, and you can deal with the under the hood stuff, making sure that the legacy produces this wonderful experience? So the hard work can be done, but making sure that the customer experience grows, because it's where customer experience hits the tar, is where you grow your revenue, grow your subscribers, grow the cross-sell in your business. So focusing on that is super important for a return on investment. The next major thing, which is the very hard part, is transforming the culture and the way that you work. In this day and age, we need to work much faster. We need to build much more flexibly. We need to engage a lot more with business, and it's not always easy. So the agile way of work, making sure you've got a proper product owner in your team, making sure that business and IT are on the same bandwagon, and that they really are supporting each other, is an extremely crucial thing for your project, your digital projects, to be successful. We can talk about that another day, but the major focus I want to talk about today is leveraging the API economy. So let's get into that in a little bit more detail. So the universe is moving away from assuming that organizations need to make everything themselves. And we all know the very well used example of Uber. Uber took services that were already available in the market and uniquely combined them, things that they didn't make themselves, but the way they combined those different services and offer them back to us has created this marvelous thing called Uber that we use all around the world. So I think this is the value, and this example speaks to the value of the APIs, which is application programming interfaces. So Uber's platform itself is also open, and it's integrated into other business value chains, extending the use of its platforms. And this is the real value of APIs. Now, that's a very major, big brand, international brand. Let's look at a much smaller example. So let's look at small business. So an e-commerce company, let's say, has a customizable API that it offers to its customers. Its customers are small businesses, they're online vendors, and they can then consume this API from the e-commerce company without having to create their own. And they can use it and adapt it to their way of processing payments online. So this is something where small businesses don't have to go out and expend huge amounts of money to have custom software development done, but they can use what's out there in the market. And this is the true value of APIs. Now, if we take that a little bit further back and we think at the 30,000-foot views, well, integration has been around for decades. What does integration do? Well, APIs specifically allow 2 different applications to talk to each other in a seamless, fast way. And integration, the need for integration has increased dramatically, and as a result of next generation technology. So let's take 2 examples. For example, IoT. IoT creates a huge amount of data. What APIs do in the IoT space is that they're the building blocks of IoT, because they allow the IoT device to communicate very quickly with another system or application without any human presence. So it's a sense of automation, and that there's no human involvement, and that things can talk to each other and communicate. And this is huge driver of the use of APIs is IoT. A second important example is microservices design. So you may know that microservices architecture is all about breaking complex software components down into smaller parts. So instead of having a complex application doing 10 different things, we'll say, well, this is the login module, and this is the check the address module, and this is check if payment has been made module. And if you break these up in microservices architecture, all of those pieces need to be integrated in order for something to seamlessly happen for the user on the other side. And again, that integration is making use of APIs. So where does this lead us to in terms of innovation? Well, what you can do is you can take in your own organization, you can take APIs and you can break up your business into, let's say you've got 100 APIs, and combine different APIs that you hadn't combined before in order to make a unique service, which is exactly what Uber did, is they took services that were already out there. And when the service as it stands as Uber today landed with us, it was this marvelous creation because of the way it was put together. And you can do exactly the same with using not only your own internal APIs, but APIs from the market, that you can pull them together in an unrelated way and create real value. And that is where innovation happens for us. So when somebody talks about the API economy, what do they mean by the API economy? Well, organizations that make APIs can then, they make them APIs for themselves. They can then decide they might want to monetize those APIs. So they've taken something, let's say a login module and a checking of an address and personal details module, or two-factor authentication, for example, and they can offer that and package it as a product and sell it to other companies. So what you've built for yourself as a small organization or large organization, you can then make that available to others to consume, and you can get money for that. So it opens up a whole new revenue stream, certainly for IT departments or for businesses, and I think that's really important. And it also enables much faster product delivery. So the benefits abound for the API, for APIs. And it also makes access to APIs. So APIs, what they talk about in the API economy is that there's a marketplace where you can go and pick and choose these various components and these APIs to make your service. So, and who is consuming these? Well, developers are consuming these APIs in API marketplaces. And what we're finding more and more is we're finding citizen developers, so people that didn't train as developers, but they are hackers on the weekend to make new things that come up. So what is this all about ultimately? Is the beauty of the API economy is that it's not only for the technology companies, but the API economy is exponential. It unlocks huge possibilities for innovation and for new products and for new product development, so that it ultimately can empower our consumers with more services and more options. And now I'm going to hand back over to Francis. Do you have any questions, Francis?
Thank you so much, Mary-Lyn, for your insights. That was quite informative. I invite our attendees once again to join the discussion. Please post your questions in the Q&A box and stand a chance to win an e-shopping voucher. Mary-Lyn, we have some questions coming in from the audience. Let's start with what are the biggest barriers to digital transformation that you've found working with your clients?
So the biggest the biggest barrier has got to be people. So 70% of transformation efforts fail not for the technology, but rather because of people efforts and because people lack either the skills or the way of work or have the culture to make real change happen. We know that technology very seldom fails. It's the way it is implemented. It's the way it was built. It was the fact that there was not much change management to make sure that people would adopt this particular thing at the end of the process. So for me, the major barrier is that people need to work much better together, and you need to manage the change management process. I think that, and as well as, along with a people component, is the culture of the organization and that the way they work together. You need to have your project sort of roadmap really well aligned. You need to have your project team members understanding their roles. You need to have the governance in place, the scrum ceremonies, the program steer codes. You need to have all of those things in place so that you give the projects, or the digital transformation projects, every chance of success.
Thank you, Mary-Lyn. I think we have time for just one more question. Thinking of the biggest mistakes or wasted investment in clients' digital transformation, what would you have done to prevent it?
So I often feel, you know, I've subscribed to the philosophy of measure twice, cut once. If you've ever sowed anything in your life, then it would be very important that you measure twice before you start cutting the material. And the same goes for large programs. You really should invest in a proper detailed business case and very clear thinking of what it is that you're going to build and how you're going to build and how you're going to roll it out. So do all of that thinking very well up front. Then choose the right people in the team, because people will make this thing work or fail. Choosing very strong people. It's very difficult to second people into project teams while you're keeping the rest of the business running, because they've got other priorities. But if you manage people's expectations much better, and you do the planning up front, and you work with the people and you manage that, I think you're going to have a lot more chance of success.